Man, I knew the Han boys weren't bums. I fucking knew it. I've been kind of holding it in a bit because there was the chance of some classic jobbing, but I should have been more vocal and more decisive with my rhetoric because these boys are bringing the heat. Sheesh. I thought Han was ass. What happened, son? Before we knew any better, Shin's already in deep trouble and on the brink of being defeated unless help arrives to save his ass. And To, on the other hand, is getting classic jobber dialogue, sleeping on the boy Rakuan the goat in a manner that's clear he's gonna get a rude awakening. I hope they would show out to make the arc more interesting, but shit, they're even better than I hoped for. It was worth it keeping my expectations low because now I'm more excited for the arc than I've ever been. I need to see the full potential of Hakuo's trap and see just what makes Rakuan such a talented man. Such a talented man, in fact, that To himself doesn't even really consider himself more talented. Just that he has a mix of that level of talent plus experience, so he's better overall. Like, damn, son, you saying you need to rely on your experience to win? Yet at the same time think Rakuan's just a former genius because he hasn't had the necessary experience? Like, come on, To, this is Rozo levels of jobber dialogue. What are we doing, To? But this chapter was a fantastic one. The hype on the trap versus Shin delivered, and the situation is compelling, and the stage has been set in a great way for To and the Rakuan clash. Talent versus experience. An interesting theme that promises to finally show what makes To's experience stand out in a way that's actually substantial, while also being low-key more exciting for Rakuan than anything. Rakuan is supposed to represent raw talent, raw genius, over the man known as To. To will probably be correct in the end, but it's clear he's underestimating Rakuan, and Rakuan has something to say about this whole ordeal that'll shift everyone's perceptions, and I can't wait for it. But we start off with Shin dueling Yoko, and while Yokozuna seems to get the better of the exchange initially, it was worth showing this short 1v1 clash to show the growth Shin's had since his duel with Gaimo all those years ago, and he turns the tides fairly quickly, paying Yoko back for that first exchange between them in similar fashion. I don't think anyone expected Yoko to be a big enough problem to where he alone is the obstacle Shin has to face, and it's nice to see how with a stronger MC at this point, we get expected greater challenges. We move on pretty quickly to the real threat, which is interference and having to face unique elites that are formidable and bootleg mobile on top of that, with Yokozuna still being active in the picture, of course. Even if it is Shin, the fact that he has to deal with all of this on top of Hakuo's army skillfully creating a tough wall to break through to help Shin, with it being relatively minor for someone like Shin to hold his own and overpower Yoku, it was also trivial for Han to quickly pull up and create a much tougher situation casually that leaves Shin in a really dangerous predicament. And man, that shit was fucking boss. Man's just casually pulled up like, you thought that was it? Prepare yourself, little nigga. Let's just brush past the fact that Hakuo is going to stand there waiting for Yoku to start dueling Shin again before he personally makes a move himself. If we ignore that, then this moment is cold as hell, bro. The ease in which he brought forth his death trap and how casually he pulls up the quickly dispatch of the man who killed Hokunin and has been the biggest thorn on Zhao's side in this era is kind of crazy. Hakuo really thinks he's him. It's too bad he's probably going to die in like 10 chapters, but he's looking impressive so far. And I'm loving how dangerous the situation is for Shin. Like I said, he can't Shin smash his way out of this one, which is just the type of predicament the fans want to see for Shin. And we also get to see the rest of the Haishin unit having to pull their own weight, or at least try to, which is always welcomed. It's just too bad I can't take these niggas seriously in the slightest. First thing I thought of when I saw these panels of them screaming is, man, this is great meme material, but maybe they'll surprise me. I don't know. Maybe they'll actually do something this time around. Either them or Kyokai or Kyorei or something. Someone has to do something because that boy Shin about to get spanked otherwise. But I'm just glad Hakuo's army is so abnormally impressive that is justifiably extremely difficult to get to where Shin is, and turning the situation around isn't trivialized, nor is it an asshole that they can't immediately make it there. Hakuo's army is legit, man, and this death trap was worth the hype, and Shin's the most interesting character in the whole story when it comes to seeing how one would escape something like this. And it isn't usually the case that what Shin does wouldn't be more interesting if you just had someone else do it. So this whole turn of events is really great. Maybe the Shin hardcores aren't going to like how Shin looks in this scenario, but who cares what they think anyways. For To's side of the battlefield, like Shin's, not all that much progress was made, but it's definitely more enticing than it was last chapter. Rakuan's made his move, and we know he's going to try to target To, who's taken a gamble himself. We thought it'd be more difficult for Rakuan to force To in a dangerous situation, because To's supposed to be the man without flaws that you can't really take advantage of, but it seems the situation is forcing To's hand, it kind of like it did with Shin, except it's more calculated on To's part. While Shin was just cocky and didn't respect the opposition's potential might, High risks, high reward. Tou's isolated himself, which could be bait on his part, but Tou likely knows Rakuan's too talented to crush him without Tou presenting himself as a bait. I really like the plays Tou has made so far, relying on Rakuan's committing too heavily on aggression before he can gauge his enemy, and relying on him needing to put himself at risk to take advantage of Tou seemingly putting himself at greater risk. The concession Tou's made are worthy of his hype as a man without flaws. He was in a tough predicament this war due to Kin's L last war, and sacrifices had to have been made as they can't afford to run a war of attrition. And Tou's making the bare minimum sacrifices he needs to gain a sweeping victory, it seems like. Yes, it will probably bite him in the ass to some extent, but you can't blame him for the risks he's taking considering how difficult the objective was to begin with the risks seeming pretty inconsequential in comparison, given his strength and wit and Shin's stubbornness. Though a part of that is us just knowing Kin's plot armor and not truly believing in the ability of Han's commanders. But regardless, Tou's been playing the battle really well despite just doing a straightforward charge. And the strategies of the battle in general have been cool to see and very enjoyable for what they are. A good example of not needing complex maneuvers for a compelling strategy. But it's just too bad Tou had to deliver the classic jobber dialogue. He was doing so well before this. Come on, Tou, you should know better than this. What does former genius even mean, my guy? You think Rakuan's worse now than he was 20 years ago? I get you have to cling on to the experience, cope, because the Kin 6 are better than you in every other way, but we can't be bringing up this level of foolishness, my G. Former genius, really? The saving grace is his overall assessment of having talent plus experience is a wise one and most likely hints to the fact that he'll be right overall at the end of the day, but it's pretty clear from this dialogue he's not taking Rakuan as seriously as he should be, which is kind of goofy, but also does work for hyping Rakuan up, as I really felt he was spitting at the end there. Tou delivers a goofy line and Rakuan responds with straight fuego, saying he understands everything about Tou's thought process and that he'll show him talent surpasses experience. Like, that line is cold as fuck, man. Rakuan was balling out this chapter, in the past and present. No wonder this sly motherfucker always giving that ever so slight smirk. Rakuan really about to show out, and I'm here for it. Talent versus experience. Let's see how talented Rakuan really is. Can he force Tou to rely on experience to have a chance at beating him? Is this man really that legit? Perhaps maybe even more talented than Tou himself. That would be crazy. And how will Tou finally show the fruits of his experience in a manner that's actually satisfying and makes him stand out? Hopefully it's not by seeing Ranbihaku flank and just going, yeah, let's retreat, instead of staying here like sitting ducks and getting caged down by this annoying persistent bastard, leaving us to Wei's mercy. We need to see some real shit from Tou in this regard this arc. As Eiko, for example, has shown his experience to be much more beneficial than Tou ever has, and that's supposed to be Tou's specialty, so this is exactly what I wanted to see from Tou. Let's see if he can live up to the hype, because Rakuan looking scary right now. I ain't gonna hold you. He looking like a bad man. I'd be scared if I was a Tou fan right now. This man's face is the face of pure terror. Tou fans beware.